We are going to be continuing with Joanna de Angelis, our book alert. Please do remember that we are always recording our meetings and displaying them at YouTube, our YouTube channel, SGNY. So in case you don't want to show your face, your name, just uh, yeah, stop your video and change, rename yourselves, okay? um, well, like I told you last week, our topic today is going to be intense because we are going to be talking about obsession. Okay. I did the same thing like I did last week. I don't know if to help it someone or not, but I maintained the both texts in English and Portuguese. So in case it makes easier for some people to follow us with the Portuguese language, you have the text in Portuguese as well while I read the one in English, okay? So let us start with obsession and Jesus. Subtly, an unhealthy idea without a defined outline reaches the mental planes. Once accepted, it develops characteristics and presents itself with a great deal of details, originating painful fixations. They are as lamentable as they are pernicious. If refused, it disappears in diluent mist only to repeat itself with greater intensity until it reaches a corresponding vibration in the receptive mind that submits to the unhealthy idea that succeeds in dominating it. Obsession is a generalized sickness that spreads among beings as a consequence of the psychic exchange that is as infelicitous as it is exasperating. As long as the obsessive agent is persistent in the destructive plan it has incited, it will change techniques every time it is repudiated. It will maintain a rigorous siege around the individual that suffers its influence until the resistant willpower is bent. Unless the obsessed strengthens their moral and spiritual values, which establish defense and vitality against this terrible, devastating wound. So here, remember that Joanna de Angelis always starts with a bang, right? She comes with the whole intensity of, the problem she wants to tackle. So here she's doing the same thing in relation to obsession, explaining to us how this process that we are just going to, refresh the memory of those who are not that much familiar with what we do understand as being obsession in the spiritist terms. We are talking about, the continuation of life beyond the physical death, where if spirits that have passed maintain their same inclinations, their same personality traits, their same emotions, which can lead them to, seek to associate with incarnate spirits in order to be able to satisfy their needs, their whims, or even to take revenge. So for whatever reason, we are going to connect and to establish what is also known as spiritual attachments. Once they start their exerting their influence upon us, we have to be very careful. So here she starts by saying that they start with sending unhealthy ideas that are going to be constant in our minds due to their sending of these ideas and energy to the point of them becoming fixations. Uh, we are going to talk about now about psychological problem, but that in a way could perhaps give us an understanding of this spiritual problem. So we are not saying that what we are going to relate to talk about now is due to spiritual influences. We are just going to use this as example. For example, people that are bulimic, they may weigh 90 pounds, but they look in the mirror and they see themselves as 200 pounds. So they have this fixed idea that they need to lose weight, that they are too fat. So this is a psychological problem that has to be treated with medical doctors, with medicine from the world of the living. Not that it cannot have a spiritual cause as well, but let's leave that to the field of medicine. What pertains to us here is what we are talking in terms of spiritual values. So here we are talking about us is starting with that idea that my life is not worth. Why am I living? Like, for instance, now, it's being very, a very good field for experimentation of spirits in coming to us and saying, you're never going to get rid of this virus. Why are you going to keep living in fear? Or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, until they can really impact our resistance and may even lead us to an act of despair. Okay, so this is what she's saying, how they start their attack on us for different reasons. They have diverse techniques to do that. So they try with, the fixed idea. Then if they feel that they are not having that much result, they will perhaps influence people that are around us to lead us to the same conclusions they want us to have in our lives. So that's why, in a way, Joanna de Angelis has been dedicating so much to the know thyself, to the idea of us really paying attention of who we are, what we feel, what are our thoughts, to own ourselves. So at least when we have this kind of, interference from minds that are not ours, at least we are going to recognize and we will be able to do something to combat this, to counteract what they are doing. And of course, the only way of doing that, we can only eliminate darkness with light. So No one is saying that it is easy here, but of course at the beginning it's much easier than if we leave those things, like, same thing if I have like a little garden. I see that some, you know, uh, intruder, herbs just start developing, but I do nothing about it. I say, no, it's okay. It's not going to affect my garden. And the least you expect, the whole garden is taken and is lost. So it's the same thing in terms of us, it's in terms of our spiritual health. I would like to have, the comments and questions related to the topic, please.
Ju, Orlando has something already in the chat.
Let's see if it's related to the topic.
Yeah, he has a question actually.
Yes. I was possessed by a spirit for 11 seconds to find myself inside myself. The spirit was removed, but I had mediums. It is Angela. Is this Angela talking about? Joanna de Angelis. Yes, that's exactly it, Orlando. Um, and it doesn't even to be that strong. I mean, when it's strong, at least it's so clear that it's not us. But sometimes, even when we have, those bursts of anger that people said, Josiah, you didn't even look like yourself. Probably I was not. I was being also uh, giving myself to the influence of negative spirits. But having said that, let's not blame always just the spirits. Because, probably because I was angry in the first place, I was losing control in the first place, they just found a connection and they aggravated the situation. They are not entirely guilty for things that we do, especially because we have free will. And like we have in the Medium's book, I think it's chapter 13, that deals with obsession. Kardec starts by saying that no one obsession is irresistible. We can always combat it. It's not saying that it's easy, especially it has been established for longer, but we can resist the influence, the negative influence of those spirits, okay? So this is something that we have to keep in mind as well. Any comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Yes. Who? Okay. Who said? Is Laura or who wanted to talk?
I said I have a comment, but
Yeah.
somebody else. Yeah, but somebody else can go ahead and ask the question. I can make my comment after.
Okay, Ale, thank you.
It was not me.
Okay,
Laura.
yeah, it was Ale. I thought it was you, Laura. Then Sonia.
Yes. Then for me, I think they change the techniques every time. This sentence for me, it's incredible because many times you believe you already know which way they catch you sometimes, most of the time, and then they use another way, another person, and this.
Yeah,
we always need to be paying attention, and many times only to pray, right? Because please take out this inside my heart, inside my mind, because it's not easy, not for me.
And depending on their intention, they know they have time. They will really look for our Achilles heel, our weaknesses. And if they cannot directly harm us, they will try to others that can, you know, we all have someone that gets into our nerves easier than others. So they will say, huh, I know, if I get that person, the deal is done, right? So yeah, that's complicated. Ale?
Yeah, I was going on the same direction. I just wanted to say, like, whenever we are having negative thoughts, or let's say low vibration thoughts, we're opening the doors for this obsessors to come to us. Sometimes we obviously are not aware, but if you pay attention, it's very clear. If out of nowhere you were having just a good day and then things just change, you know, like you're having a good day, you're having a good time, you're feeling happy, and then 15 minutes later it had a change just because you read something, an email that got to you, or a message or something, and that is already enough to change the whole energy that you were earlier. So we need to be very cautious to understand when we are feeling that, to pray, as Sonia said, but also aware to understand that sometimes it's not coming from us. And we need to stop that as well.
And you said something very important. Today, it's so easy for people to get to us, right? I mean, and since there is not so much censorship in messages, WhatsApp, emails, and etc., I mean, people write what they, you know, they speak their heart, like we say. I mean, I really don't like this expression, because when you speak your heart, it should be, you know, you're speaking something good. But yeah, they just don't care, and are very inconsequent, and sometimes inconsequent in what they are writing and the emphasis they are putting in the writing, and we can be much more prone to all of this. So let's continue here with, oh my God, okay, another part. Addicted minds are more easily receptive to morbid suggestions that are incited in the arena in which they are best expressed: mistrust, jealousy, hate, raving sexuality, alcoholic dependency, drug addiction, gluttony, slander, etc. Aloof and suspicious temperaments more easily accept similar prompts, which they consort in perfect harmony. Violent and impassionate characters are more malleable in consequence of the rebellious spirit that inhabits their body, dissimulating the sparks. Just 1 second. Dissimulating the sparks that light the flames of their inner fire, which is expressed as destructive fireworks. Idle personalities are the most susceptible, since their empty minds always welcomes what suits them, allowing themselves to be conducted by the personality of their kindred discarnates. It is unnecessary to reaffirm that after death, disturbers can be encountered. As long as the obsession finds grounds among incarnates obeying the same process of mental harmony and cultivating the same inferior passions. So, very much like we are so much talking about, you know, illnesses, how to prevent that, how to strengthen our immunological system, all of this, we have to think about the same thing in terms of spiritual health. So obviously, people that are prone to negative behaviors, be it like she's saying here, mistrust, jealousy, hate, raving sexuality, alcoholic dependence, drug addiction, gluttony, slander, we will be much more susceptible to become prey of spirits that will feel the same needs that we do. Or in the case, like for instance, they want to negative influence us, they start empowering, so to say, or to increase our jealousy towards someone, and just thinking always that we are not as good as the other person, and this will each time more provoke an imbalance in us. Of course, for those who are not occupying their minds with, good things. And here we are not talking of you mean that we are not entitled to leisure times, okay? Of course we are. But even when we are looking for, leisure time, we will look for things that will not be damaging to our spiritual health, so to say. And in this way, it's because of this mental harmony that has nothing to do with harmony, okay? It's just attunement that we are going to be inviting those spirits that also present inferior passions to come next to us. Let's say that as a spirit that's always like to any kind of confront, okay, even physical confront, they will be increasing in some people this desire to fight, to start an argument, just because they enjoy this kind of dynamic and they miss this kind of dynamic. So this is what we have to be careful. And again, it's in our own interest to find a way to lead a balanced life in all senses. Questions, comments?
I'd like to say, because here show us how we can open this window for obsession. But plus, when we start to study this kind of study we are here, I can feel many years ago when we start Tuesdays, noon, every Tuesday, 11 a.m., something happened to deviate me to go to the center.
Yeah.
Then also, we have this situation every time when we start to take this way in a good way, something can try to deviate.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's like little things. Like for instance, we all know that how good it is for us to open our eyes in the morning with a prayer and close our eyes at night with a prayer. And this, we are not talking with, as a form of a ritual, with for any dogmatic reason, for any excessive religious reason. We are talking about, having a thought of gratitude for life, having a positive thought, a positive energy from the moment we are going to wake up to the moment we are going to sleep, so that we can have maintained our mental outlook in a better kind of energy. And how hard it is to do that, because, you know, we wake up in the morning with the ringing of the alarm, and then things start happening, and then we have all those things that start interfering, and then you say, oh my God, I forgot. Like if it was also a burden or an obligation. And it's something that is in our own interest, and it should be so easy for us to do that. We should not be impacted by anything else, and we shouldn't feel that as an obligation. So it's really complicated. So it's very, very difficult for us to deal with those things.
But it's very interesting, beautiful what you just say, Jusara, because if we start our day with our prayers, and even during the day, when we say prayers, it's not that you have to stop your day and sit down and say like 2 hours praying. It's a gratitude. It's sending your gratitude for Jesus, for God, for your spiritual mentor, and all that. Even if you go to a difficult times, it's gonna help you to go through that with your faith, with the strength. It's gonna give you strength too. I just read what Orlando said. I think what you said already is the answer for that, because he's asking, is the spirit world responsible for not controlling obsessive spirits? We have enough problems in our life. But if we start taking the responsibility, like you say, all the time, and okay, that thought is not mine. Oh God, help me. That's a prayer. We are already putting the shield around us, or at least asking for help. I think that's very important to know how to do it.
Orlando, I understand that you always want to blame the spirits. But this, unfortunately, you know, when you have a bottle of whiskey in front of you and you drink it all, is this a spirit that is forcing you to do that, or is it your free will? So we are going to blame God because God allowed someone to make the whiskey, right? Or nuclear energy, because now people are using that to make bombs. But nuclear energy is also being an important instrument to energy for so many countries. I mean, if we are making a bad use of things, it's our responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the spirits. From the moment we have the decision, be that even to be a bad friend, and we do that on earth. We don't need to talk about discarnate spirits here. We can have friends that can be as damaging to us as any spirit obsessor. We can have obsessive relationships, like you see a couple sometimes, one destroying another, or brothers and sisters, or mother and daughter, or well, spouses we mentioned already, or friends, that they live and they breathe in this toxic relationship. Why? How are one feeding on another? So it's always our choice. And it's always much more complex than that. When we are talking about obsessors that come to us with a vengeance because we harm them, we cannot say that how the spirits did not prevent that. I was the one that caused them harm, and now they, you know, to them is payback time. So I cannot blame them. How could you didn't take them out of my way? And they can look at me, really? How could you didn't think about that before you went there and destroyed the life of this spirit? So yeah, those are things that I know. I always keep saying that it's not nice to hear that it's our responsibility, but we have to start owning our actions. Until if we keep on just thinking and blaming others, we will not take action. First of all, to try to um, revert the situation, and much less to prevent a similar situation from happening in the future. So unless I understand that it is my responsibility and that I am the one that is causing all this trouble to my life in whatever form they are presenting to us, I'm not going to make any movement to change this position. Okay. So let's read the next one. The action of an optimistic and healthy operated thought, the fraternal labor of solidarity, the edifying worry in favor of our neighbor, the humblest, the greatest service towards others, or the honest interest of another's well-being, constitutes the preventive and curative therapy against obsession. Prayer, or the habit of praying, creates an environment of peace. Uplifting reading creates superior psychic cliches. Meditation around the noble questions of life and edifying dialogue, impeding and perturbing any perturbing exchange. They are true antidotes against obsession, since they establish methods of vibrational elevation that do not invigorate the malefic interferences, the parasitosis and prejudicial vampirizations that only have track in similar mental bands. Furthermore, the exercise of such methods liberates any fall in the tight nets of obsessive alienation of pernicious effects on earth. So now it's the point where Joanna de Angelis says, well, first, we talked about the problem. We showed how it can be established in our lives. Now is where I tell you the solution. How can we combat that? Because here it doesn't matter just for us to say, oh, this problem does exist. How can I solve that? Sorry, I don't know. No, Joanna de Angelis, no, and she's telling us here what should we do and can do in order to really change this situation and eliminating any kind of spiritual attachment, any kind of obsessive problems that we may be suffering. Again, it's only with the opposite emotions that we can counteract the negative emotions. So here, anything that we can do that represents goodness is going to work in our favor. So here we're not saying you need to become a spiritist. No, we're not saying that. Or you need to become a Catholic or any other religions, or you need to become a Buddhist or do 5 hours of meditation a day. We're not saying that. Or you have to become a volunteer in a hospital, in an orphanage, or you have to cook for the poor. No, we're not saying that. We're just saying whatever works best for you in terms of making you change your mental bands, like they say here, your mental outlook. Do that. You have to find the formula that is going to be more enticing to you, more effective. Each one of us will have a different formula. For some, it will be, I like to pray, I will stay praying. For some, it will be, every time I read uplifting books, I change that, I see the change in me. Oh, if I go to Mass, or if I go to the Spiritual Center, or if I volunteer my time to this, or if I do manual work for the poor, or cook, or whatever works best for you. The important thing she told here before, I don't mind, is a red flag. Negative emotions, passionate emotions, red flag. Not using our time wisely with things that can bring good energy to us, red flag as well. So we have the way. What we lack is the will. There is a question, I don't remember it by heart, in the Spirits book. If someone knows it, please show me which one is exactly it is, that the spirits ask, Kardec asked the spirits, is there any way for us to prevent evil, to prevent badness to happen, or for us to commit any kind of badness? And the spirit replies, and normally it's very easy for you to do that. You can do that, and it's very easy. What you lack is the will to do it. So what we lack is the will to do it. We cannot continue saying, oh my God, I need to lose 10 pounds and keep on eating chocolate or pasta or pizza or whatever, taking sodas or, and what are you doing about it? Nothing, right? Putting but it's too hard. Yeah, it is hard. I mean, it was hard in the beginning as well to start with the negative habit. No one smokes a cigarette and say, oh my God, this is delicious. The first cigarettes you're going to smoke, it's not going to be delicious. I remember my father used to smoke, and I thought it was, And then one day I was like, I don't know, 9 years old. I told my father, I also want to smoke, and he gave me a cigarette. Here, take it. Oh, I felt, the queen of the world. And then I gave a puff, and you can only imagine what happened next. Then I understood my father's psychology, right? How could he give a cigarette to an 8-year-old? But he was right. Right? As soon as I took a puff of that cigarette, that was horrible thinking. Why on earth do you do that, right? So it takes time for you to, the same thing when you drink any alcoholic. I mean, that burns your throat, right? And then you start forcing yourself to do it because it seems chic, elegant. Everyone does that. Oh, I heard that if I smoke, I'm going to, to calm down. If I drink, I will release stress and this and that. And then we start forcing ourselves to the taste of things that not necessarily are nice in the first place. And I even remember, those smelly cheeses, cheese. My father used to love those cheese, and gorgonzola. And I look at that and he said, oh no, those are little animals in the middle of the cheese. And today I love those cheeses as well. But I mean, it took me a while to get used to it as well. So when we are talking about doing positive things, it's the same thing. At first, it's not part of us. It's very hard, and it's going to require, and they are disagreeable, very much like the first sip of an alcoholic, the first puff of a cigarette, the first strong food or caviar. If you I still do not know how people can eat that, but anyway. So this is the thing. If we have a will, there will come a time that I will say, oh my God, how could I live with so much, disturbing emotions in me? I feel so much calmer, released. It's so much nicer to live in the world with this kind of, behavior, emotions, that you will say, I don't want to go back anymore. I don't want to be that person that for the least thing I start to feel irritated or something. So these are the things we have to think about. We just have a small paragraph now. In the condition of divine therapist, Jesus prescribed against the scourge of obsession. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Since, thus proceeding, the love we dedicate to ourselves will automatically swell towards our neighbors, undoing the matrices of evil that still linger affixed in the many beings that pullulate around earth, aiding them and at the same time to awaken to goodness and happiness, to awaken them to goodness and happiness. Uh, so there is just this formula. Um, we start thinking more about ourselves, about our behaviors. Changing our behaviors automatically is going to change the behaviors of people around us, because I don't know what would be the correspondent saying in English, but if one person doesn't want to fight, you don't have a fight. Quando não quer, dois não brigam. How do we say? Do we have any correspondent saying that when we have two people, if one don't want to fight the other, there is no fight?
It takes two to tango.
It takes two to tango. That's it. Thank you, Marisol. I mean, it means the same, but the way we say it in Portuguese is so much more directed. But yeah, it takes two to tango. So if we start changing our behavior, our emotions towards people, they will no longer find an entrance to make an impact on us. And this also goes for the spirits, discarnate spirits. They will look at us and say, oh, this one is boring. It's always treating people nicely. It's always reading good books. It's always trying to help people, or, is studying the spiritists. Let me look for, around to see if I find someone that will be more in tune with my emotions. So this is the way it is. Okay. Any more comments, or I'll stop sharing now?
I had a question,
Yeah.
What does it mean? What are superior psychic cliches? I never heard of that
Okay.
before.
Okay, let me look at here. On the where was that? It was in the other paragraph, right?
Yeah, it was like 2 paragraphs before the.
It's the cliches here is trying to say, you know, mental images that become a cliche because they are repeated. So it's more like a mental image. And so that's why she says uplifting reading creates superior psychic images, cliches. So instead of maintaining a negative images, you know, pictures, like pictures, thought frames, we will have thought frames related to the positive things that we are doing.
But like they become common.
Yes, they become common. Like, for instance, let's say that there is a jealous husband. They are always fixating in imagining his wife with another guy. So with time, this becomes like, this is what she's calling here cliche. Although, you know, this is a word, I mean, we try to maintain the word in English because this is the word, the terminology that she used in Portuguese. But I think it's more related to, you know, here, what she's trying to say is exactly that, you know, it's like, how do you say when you take a mental picture? There is a terminology for that as well. You know, it's like I'll keep that in my mind. It's like, you know, a snapshot, right? It's like a snapshot here. So you keep that vivid in your mind, and you always repeat that. So by substituting something negative with something positive, you find instruments to start changing the contents of your brain, of your thinking, and substituting a bad thing for a positive one. And that's why here, when she says the reading, like for instance, when I read Paul and Stephen, and I say read because I'm often reading and rereading the book, and not I read, you know, by reading this book or any other of the you know, this collection from Emmanuel, I start thinking about, you know, the journey of Paul, and imagine him, you know, when he goes to the synagogue. And then my mind, it starts being absorbed by other images, and I create cliches that are positive instead of negative. Yeah. Any other thing, any other comment? Next week it's easier. It's a concept of brotherhood, brethren. So it's going to be not, I mean, I guess, I hope. Because brotherhood, fraternity is not such an easy thing to deal with as well, right?
Yeah. Sarah.
Yes.
I'd like to comment, just a quick comment. When she says here about to love one another, and I'm thinking of the lecture that was done on Saturday with, I think it was Osborne.
Adam?
Was it?
Osborne,
Adam
yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
The Golden Rule. And
Yeah.
just thinking of all of his lecture, which was so beautiful, and how she entwines all this exactly, the talk about the problem and the solution. Well, first rule of all, you know, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. So this goes on for centuries and centuries, and how he goes from 4,000 to where Jesus, it was amazing. It was amazing, nice, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were to comment that last night how, we always talk about the golden rule. We know that it's called the golden rule because it's everywhere.
Mm.
But sometimes I think we don't think that how
Yeah.
old there are the
Yeah.
origin of all that,
Right.
and it leads you to think,
Mm.
one thing that we always repeat, that the truth was always there. It's
Right.
here. We don't see it, and we have to have different missionaries, representatives to come and keep on repeating them with different forms for different civilizations in order to reach them in their times as well. But it was always there from the beginning of times, and it will be there for the end of time. I mean, there will be not the end of time, but for forever, right? Yeah, that's why I thought it was wonderful. Also, this work that Adam did, and for us to keep about thinking about it
Yes.
more in terms of how can we actually put that in practice. And since we are talking about obsessors, and like I always say, if we just have one, we may consider ourselves as very happy. Probably we have much more than just one. Let us, always think about them and asking for forgiveness for, because if they are there, it's because somehow they felt that we have harmed them one way or another at some point in time. And for others that may be inclining us to bad habits, let us be also say, listen, you need to get rid of that as much as I do. So let's work together on this. Let's not blame them because they were only attracted to us because we were doing that in the first place. Thinking bad, having jealousy, or eating too much, or whatever it is that. So we have to start looking at them from a different perspective, and sharing our part of responsibility, because we cannot just say, oh no, I behave like that because there is an obsessor here. Why is he there in the first place?
I'll fix it.
So again, we have to own it, and we have to do something about it. And prayer is a good way of starting, and changing a little bit our perspective, the way we see it and the way we see them. And yeah, and then we can help ourselves and help them as well in the process.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a little remind before we go to the final prayer. We have our meetings on Monday. We have now the virtual assistance at 7:30 to 8. I think everybody saw that. A lot of people was yesterday. Yeah?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
very good.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very good. It's a continuation of sorts of the work that was always been done on Mondays,
Right.
especially because the mediums after they are going to be working together for an hour, I believe, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we are in the same time at our center. So then we have the meetings on Thursday at noon, the gospel. We have Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as well, with 2 books, the spirits book and the mediums, I think. The mediums is the second one.
Yes.
And Sundays also we have a class at 11 a.m. And for those who wants to see a little bit more, we have all the lectures, all the classes on the YouTube.
Sure.
Please subscribe. It's always good to have you guys receiving the notifications. So every Saturday at 11 a.m. we have some lectures, like Zoraida was saying, really, really interesting. Okay?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, this Saturday is going to be Ways to End Suffering with Joanna de Angelis.
Oh,
So it's going
Wow.
to be kind of
Perfect.
continuation from what we were
study.
talking.
Down to
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, and Kirsten, normally she gives a very good talk. So don't miss it. If you miss, you can always watch. It will going to be in our website, in YouTube channel. But yeah, try to be there at 11 a.m. Okay.
Zoraida, can you do our final prayer, please?
Yes, yes, of
Thank
course.
you, darling.
Yes, of course. To our Father, Jesus Christ, spiritual benefactors, all that have contributed here in this beautiful meeting today, as always assisting and helping us to understand and bettering ourselves, to understand the work that's ahead of us, that at times not very easy, but not impossible. And we have so much to rely on of all the work through Allan Kardec, all the books, everything is there for us. All we need to do is to work with it, do as much as we can to help each and every one of us. And we pray, dear Father, that we continue to be assisted throughout the week. May we continue to pray for our brothers and sisters that are going through much suffering, that our prayers will assist, that our studies and working will help us, dear Lord. And to remember that we are never alone, and to continue with faith in our hearts that we're never alone. We ask, dear Father, to bless all our brothers and sisters in the Spiritist Center of New York, through the Spiritist Council, through the Federation, all that are working toward our enlightenment in this life. We thank you. And with that in mind, dear Father, we ask permission to close our meeting today. So be it.